Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, are we seeing a rise in anti-Semitism in the Valley? Also tonight, constitutional originalism defined in light of the U.S. Supreme Court nominee. And a best-selling author and family counselor talks about the teenaged mind. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The U.S. Senate today confirmed Betsy DeVos as Education Secretary. Vice President Mike Pence cast a tie-breaking vote for confirmation after the Senate deadlocked at 50-50. Arizona Senators John McCain and Jeff Flake voted for DeVos. Flake issued the following statement: Betsy DeVos has been an advocate for school choice and believes that every child should have the opportunity to receive a quality education, regardless of zip code. I was pleased to vote for her confirmation as Secretary of Education, and I look forward to working with her to roll back the federal government's reach into education and allow states and localities to determine what's best for their students. Now, Arizona Democratic Congressman Raul Grijalva issued a statement expressing his disappointment with the vote. Said Grijalva, quote, "The victims of Ms. DeVos' tenure will be children who have no ability to fight back. But the impact will scar our society as a whole, stunting our ability to accomplish great feats and solidifying the United States as a two-tier society, those born into a family that can afford a high-quality education and everyone else." Swastikas were spray-painted near Cherokee Elementary School in Paradise Valley last week, and there have been a number of reports of anti-Semitism nationwide. Joining us now is Carlos Galindo Elvira, the Anti-Defamation League's Arizona Regional Director. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me on, Ted.
Swastikas on signs outside this Paradise Valley Elementary. Talk to us about this.
So what we found out where there were swastikas painted not only on school signs, but also adjacent to public property in this neighborhood in Paradise Valley that has a high Jewish population.
Okay, so the ADL, your group, assisted in the case. What does that mean, assisted in the case?
What that means, Ted, is that families will reach out to us, parents, concerned citizens, and they'll report the incident, in this case, the painting of that symbol, the hateful symbol of a swastika. We, in turn, make inquiries on behalf of those families with school officials and with public safety. And I can tell you that in this case, both responded responsively and responsibly, in the removal of the swastikas and also Paradise Valley Police Department taking the report.
In general, how do municipalities handle such incidents?
In general, most police departments, they take it seriously. Our experience so far, and I've been with ADL for about 8 months now, whether it's the city of Phoenix, Chandler, or in this case, Paradise Valley, they move on it, they act on it, and they send a message that they do not tolerate this type of behavior within their city limits.
Is there something you would like to see more from cities, from police departments, communities as a whole when these types of incidents crop up?
I think what is important is ensuring that there's a message of safety and security for the whole community. Crimes like this hateful act of vandalism only serve a purpose really of fear, and not just for the Jewish community, but for the general community, because now it means it can happen in your neighborhood.
I was going to ask, I know that I hear that when these kinds of things happen, it's not just to one school, it's not just to one group there, it's basically lots of schools, and it's lots of folks impacted by this one incident. Talk to us about that.
Right, because in this case, like at Cherokee Elementary School, it impacted that school and the kids there, it impacted the neighborhood and the families there, and it impacted the community as a whole, the Jewish community as a whole, because the swastika represents a very dark and painful period for the Jewish community and for the world as a whole. And to see that hateful symbol so close to your home, so close to your children, it is something that could be quite frightful.
We've had over a dozen Jewish community centers around the country receive recent bomb threats. A New York City subway car was covered in swastikas and hate speech and these sorts of things. Are these, let's start with the Valley. Are we seeing more in the Valley? Are we seeing more around the country?
Yes, to both.
Why?
There's an uptick. Probably we're coming off a very highly emotional election season, a very hotly contested election season, where things were said and there are certain populations of groups of individuals, extremists and hate groups that feel emboldened and feel that it's okay to to make these type of statements, whether it's painting a swastika or sending a fax with a swastika or making these type of bomb threats at different JCCs around the country. ADL, we take it seriously, and we work with local communities, we work with law enforcement, and one of the things that we are doing is working closer with FBI on security for Jewish institutions.
You mentioned the election. It's interesting. I don't know how to work the equation because the new administration seems very pro-Israel, pro-President Netanyahu, these sorts of things, and yet some are saying, and I don't know if you agree or not, that there are those folks who are very much pro the administration are okay with, not okay with this kind of stuff, but less vigilant on these kinds of things. How does that work? I don't understand that.
So what I can say, Ted, is anti-Semitism exists and it's never gone away. And it just seems that it's exploded more on the scene these days. And for us at ADL, we believe that our job and our mission is to not just only protect the Jewish people from defamation, but also to secure fair treatment and justice for all. So while we believe in a safe and secure Jewish community, we believe that for all communities, whether they're Catholic, Muslim, or immigrant communities.
And as far as technology is concerned, it just seems, again, that technology, social media, these sorts of things, it's just unleashing some of the most hateful stuff imaginable. Is that a factor here?
Right. Decades ago, crosses were being burned, and now Twitter's being burned up with hateful messages toward not only Jews, but toward Mexicans, toward Muslims, and other vulnerable populations. There, too, ADL is working strongly across the United States. In fact, we just hired a director in Silicon Valley that will work with different social media platforms and others on tampering down this type of behavior on social media. So we know that cyber hate is pervasive, but we're not going to complain about it. We're going to do something about it to advance our mission, both here in Arizona and across the country.
And here in Arizona, do you see this? Do you see these kind of coming in tides, coming in waves? Is it flat up, going up this way or going down? It just seems like we hear about them, then there's kind of a pause, and we hear another wave coming through.
Right. Weekly, we've seen some type of incident before Hanukkah, where there was an incident that happened in the West Valley with the desecration of a menorah, or in Chandler, the desecration of another menorah during Hanukkah, or the faxes that have been coming through to some businesses with swastikas. But I want to say to you that anti-Semitism isn't just something happening in Europe or somewhere else. It's happening here on social media, but it's also happening in schoolyards, where we're getting reports from parents that children are being told things about the Holocaust or about who they are as Jews. So it's compounded in many different ways, whether you see it on the news or you hear it on the radio, but there's also those stories that you're not hearing about that are occurring in our community.
And it's interesting, I think there's a climate now where everyone just feels like they can just say whatever they want to say and no one should take any offense to anything, but there are things you have to watch what you say. I mean,
civility is the best policy.
Isn't it amazing? Yes. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining. You're watching Arizona Horizon. Stay with us for a discussion on the judicial philosophy of President Trump's Supreme Court nominee.
This is the real thing. This is where we were born.
One of the amazing things about the history of life on Earth is it keeps learning new tricks.
The animals, plants, really gets in your blood.
Everything's interconnected.
We've got to begin to tell a new story, a story about interaction.
It's something that really touches my heart. There's just massive life everywhere. It's just magic.
U.S. Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch is said to be an originalist and a textualist when it comes to ruling on constitutional law. But what does originalism and textualism mean? Attorney and constitutional scholar Robert McWhorter is here to help explain the judges' judicial philosophy. Good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
What is originalism?
Originalism is a doctrine, a theory of constitutional construction that says that you must read the Constitution as it was originally intended to be read. So you have to go into the intent of the framers of the Constitution to apply any constitutional provision to a modern situation.
And textualism?
Textualism is a kind of a precursor to originalism. It's a little bit different. Now you have textualists, originalists, and all these things go over. A textualist is somebody who reads what's written reasonably and does not go beyond that, doesn't go to the intent. So to use an example from Aristotelian logic, which the framers did, let's say you and I make a statute that says cutting people is a crime. A textualist will read that and say, okay, it doesn't matter if you're a surgeon. Cutting people is a crime, therefore a surgeon can be charged with that crime. Because if we're a textualist, we're not going to go back to the original intent. Now let's say you and I said, well, yes, Mr. Representative, distinguished gentleman, do you mean surgeons? And you would say, no, I don't mean that, distinguished gentleman, Mr. McWhorter. A textualist won't go back and look at that. A textualist just says, cutting people is a crime, that's it.
Can you be an originalist and a textualist?
Anton Scalia seemed to think that he could, but I think there's a real divergence. Now, what Scalia would say that what I've just described as a textualist really isn't a textualist. It's a strict constructionalist, and those people are bad. And that reading that I just gave is so rigid that it's not reasonable. And what Scalia would say is, you take the text, you read it reasonably, but to know what reasonable means, you have to go to the original intent.
Right.
And that's how he mixes originalism and textualism together.
So we're not talking about a living document here. We are talking about a dead document. Scalia actually used the word dead, although he used enduring, didn't he?
He said, my Constitution is dead, but what I mean by that is enduring.
Yes.
So he used both.
All right, so if intent is the major factor, how do we know the intent of the Founding Fathers?
That is a huge problem. Now that's one of the issues. Now I consider myself an originalist, but the theory has real problems if you adhere to it too strictly. I think you should start with what you know of their intent and apply it in a way that makes it relevant. Now, some originalists won't do that. They say you just have to go to the original intent. Well, look, here's the problem. You have to take the original intent of every subsequent amendment. So, an example, the original intent of the framers of the Constitution were that women didn't vote. The original intent of the 19th Amendment framers are that they do. So it's their original intent that matters, not the guys back in 1789 that matters. So right away you've got a whole different thing. So when you go to the original intent of the framers of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, it all starts to become much more complicated. And that's a branch of originalism called progressive originalism.
Holy smokes. I'm trying to get to two of them here, and you've already branched out to five.
Well, let's realize what's going on here. And also, the next thing is I'm going to say is perhaps born of a bit of cynicism. What this is about are little hooks that politicians can use to complain about given decisions. You never hear somebody who's happy with a court opinion saying, oh, those judges were activists, or they're not adhering to the true meaning of the Constitution. It's only when a decision doesn't go their way that they start saying that. And then the other group that really gets into this are law professors who write law review articles to get tenure. So they spin this out. But when you think about it, really, how does this really adhere to a judicial philosophy?
Well, it sounds as though, and again, going back to Scalia, that he thought that policy changes should be through the democratic process and not by way of unelected courts.
And that's a perfectly valid constitutional principle. The trouble is, and here's another thing, let's just get into a little bit of Aristotle. The framers read Aristotle. If you want to understand the structure of our Constitution, you have to read Aristotle and Thucydides. Aristotle said that what a judge must seek to do is put himself in the position of a legislator had the legislator had the facts before him. So right away, you can make an argument that the original intent of the framers of the Constitution was not originalist. In other words, they thought that this document should have a sense of evolving. Representative Livermore, when he was talking during the passing of the Eighth Amendment, said, well, you know, we have this cruel and unusual punishment. In the future, there may be better ways to punish people rather than flogging them or cutting off their noses and ears. So Representative Livermore and the ones who passed the Eighth Amendment, I would argue, considered this, our standards are going to evolve. Well, that means you can't just look to the framers of the Eighth Amendment. It's an evolving document, and that has been articulated as evolving standards of decency. I think that's an originalist argument for a position that some would say is not originalist.
Right, right, yeah, and you know, and also the idea that you have to wait for legislative action before you're allowed a fundamental right.
Well, and the other thing too, if you and I are a judge applying a law and a surgeon who's just tried to save somebody by cutting them open is all of a sudden amenable to prosecution, that gets to be a little strict. Do we really need to wait for the legislature to come in and pass an amendment to the statute?
Well, and also when then should courts strike down laws? I mean, when do you do it?
Well, I think you have to do it two ways, and I did state that I am an originalist. I think you start with what is the original intent, and work from there, and then see how the law has developed. It has developed predictably in a lot of areas. Mm-hmm. The decision on same-sex marriage is a predictable progression. People may not like the way the opinion came out, but it was not something just totally out of thin air. It was a predictable progression of law and court decisions and statutes that had been going on for some time. And if you start from the original premise that all men are created equal and we have the equal rights, then you can see that progression. Now, you may disagree with that on a policy level or whatever, but I don't think that you have a particularly good argument that says, well, John Hancock never would have wanted same-sex marriage. I don't think that is a good argument to be on a constitutional level.
So is not your particular brand of originalism,
right,
but let's say the Scalia and the Gorsuch brand, is that now mainstream thought?
Well, if Gorsuch gets on, he will be the second justice on the current court who is an originalist, the other being Clarence Thomas. Anton Scalia has left. But I have found that these justices who claim to be originalists can be not very consistent, and I'll give the example of Clarence Thomas. He is a professed originalist. If you look at his opinions against affirmative action, he never uses an originalist methodology. He doesn't like affirmative action. He's the most vocal opponent of affirmative action on the court. And I think the reason why is if you go to the original intent of the framers of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, affirmative action was small potatoes to these people. They were into sending troops to the South to better the lives of black people directly. Affirmative action compared to that is not very great at all. And when Clarence Thomas talks about in opposition to affirmative action, it's very policy type.
Interesting, interesting.
And in Fisher versus Texas, where you had Sotomayor and Clarence Thomas going at it, but
Yeah.
it was purely policy, which an originalist says that's supposed to be for the legislature.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think Gorsuch said the job of a judge is to look backward. I guess that's one of the tenets of originalism. Very interesting stuff. Good. And your book, Bills, Quills, and Stills, we can still buy it?
You can still buy it on Amazon.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Good. Thanks.
How do teenagers handle stress, friendships, and everyday life? And what can parents do to help? Here now to share his insight into the minds of teenagers is best-selling author and family counselor, Michael Gurian. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
When does a teenage mind become a teenage mind?
Well, it's moving through pre-puberty, 9, 10-ish, moving in, and then 11, 12-ish, and then of course by 13 we call it a teen mind. But it's moving, as it moves through puberty, it's becoming this teen mind.
So it moves gradually as opposed to one fell swoop.
Mm-hmm. Everything is developmental.
Yeah, okay. Brain chemistry, how much is that involved with this movement?
Well, it's an echo. The brain chemistry, the hormones, what we all know as hormones, all of that happens in adolescence is actually an echo of what happened in the womb, because like the male and the female brain, they're set in utero through neurochemistry, right? And that whole spectrum, that whole gender spectrum is set. So then we become more male and female as we get hit with hormones, and it echoes what was happening back then. The brain in some ways differentiates even more male and female, and then in some ways, it comes together. The brain chemistry, the brain is set by the chemistry.
But that is a major factor, is it not?
Well, it's huge. I mean, the brain is already there, but that chemistry, as people know, their kids go through moods, at 14 that they didn't go through at 7. So a lot of that is chemistry hitting the brain.
Teenagers and everyday life, how do they handle things?
How do they handle everyday life?
Yeah.
Well, they're looking, a lot of the teen mind, we want them to develop the top of the brain, right? That's the frontal lobe,
Yes.
temporal lobe, all of that. That's what we want them to develop. But a lot of what they're doing is in the middle. Yeah, is in the limbic system in the middle. So where the senses are and where the emotions are, and then they get parsed upward. So adolescence, and our role really is to help them develop more pathways between the middle of the brain and the top of the brain, the thinking part of the brain, the emotive part of the brain. So that's what we're trying to do, right, as we're trying to nurture them to become adults. And what they're doing is naturally going through a process that's experiential, where they experience impulses and then they get feedback. Impulse, feedback, impulse, feedback. And of course they're cognitively learning in school, but when they're doing Facebook, when they're on social media, very impulsive, and then they're learning from how the world, how the environment faces off with their impulses.
Differences between boys and girls here?
Oh yeah, very, very significant. The male and the female, like tomorrow when I'm speaking, I'll show scans of the male and the female brain, and they're very different brains. Of course, it's on a spectrum. So some males are very extreme male, some females are very extreme female, right? Some males and females are more toward the middle. But the male and the female brain are quite different. And so if people are parenting boys and girls, we're constantly saying to them, okay, you're parenting a human being, but you're also parenting a boy and a girl. So learn as much as you can about boys and girls.
Okay, boys and girls, and we can parse the difference between them in a second here, but handling stress, a biggie for teenagers.
Oh, very big, very big. And females, so girls, have word centers on both sides of their brain, and they connect those word centers to their emotive parts of the brain, right, on both sides of the brain. Males only do it here on the left, front left. So females will tend to handle stress and process more of it verbally internally and then verbally with others. There are some very verbal males, I'm one of them, but 4 out of 5 males are going to tend to be less verbal in handling their stress, and they're going to tend to be more physical, use more competitive, more sports, these sorts of things. So they're all handling stress. They'll tend to do it in a different way.
Interesting. Now, does the same thing apply to friendships, for example?
Well, again, everyone's human, everyone has the
Sure.
friendships, but as we drill down and we look at it, we realize that when we mentor girls and we mentor boys, we're doing a lot of the same human stuff. But for instance, if males don't get male role models to mentor them, between about 13 and 18, they're more likely to go off the rails. Females, they should have male mentors, it's good for them, but they're less likely to go to prison and do the things males will do, right, who don't have male mentors or
Because
fathers.
of the verbalization as opposed to the action?
Well, males and females both help kids develop those pathways in different ways. Dads and moms do it in somewhat different ways. Male mentors, female mentors in somewhat different ways. So part of the journey of the teen is to just get human contact and attachment. And then for males and females, it's to try to get some of the males for males, females for females, for some of the deep, deep stuff that only they can understand.
Misconceptions regarding the teenaged mind. What's out there?
Well, I think one misconception is people don't realize how impulsive it is. So they will give an 11-year-old a cell phone, which in my mind is too early to give them, and the 11-year-old will, because the 11-year-old is exploring, and is impulsive, will do things on this phone, and then the parents will get really mad and say, well, I didn't train you to be that way. But the parents didn't realize that 11-year-old is too impulsive to have access to social media, et cetera, et cetera. So some of it is we don't realize that they're so impulsive and that that's how they're supposed to be. So we don't want to give them tools that are going to mess them up. But another sort of misnomer or myth is that males and females aren't different, or that we don't have to care that they're different. That's a myth we want to fight against, because boys and girls do need nurturing in ways that are human, but also male and female.
Last question. I asked you when a teenage mind becomes a teenage mind. When does a teenage mind stop becoming
an adult?
Yes.
Well, females earlier than males, 3 to 5 years earlier. And two things. One is our kids are maturing later. So a lot of them are not maturing fully into adulthood till 25, 27. And that's especially males, because they're about 3 or 5 years behind females.
Okay, all right. Book is Saving Our Sons, the latest book. You've written a lot about this. It's very interesting stuff, and it must be fascinating to study. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.